in the year 2023.
20
And
days till Christmas, Kevin.
I know. Uh-oh. And I am also David Darnell. Let me see if I can actually fix that.
Dos David Darnellis.
I'll put here, not yet. Here, we'll do this. I've got
David
a
Darnell.
creative name here. Not yet non-binary. There we go. I'm still learning.
Well, you need to go back to school, Kevin.
I know. That's why got to get back into school and you can learn all about it.
Yeah.
And I can already read, so I guess I won't be as disadvantaged as some of the other folks. Maybe they'll help me unlearn reading. Maybe they're that good that I could actually forget how to read by going back to school. But well, that is our lead off story tonight, David. So this broke on Friday, and it's been playing all weekend. On Fox News, they reported that the number of non-binary identifying students has spiked nearly 57% in Oregon. Almost 3,000 students now identify as non-binary in Oregon schools, which I think is roughly the equivalent of like in 1978 saying that the number of Aerosmith fans had spiked, or Kiss fans. You know, it has that flavor to it. But
yeah. Did they fire all of the biology teachers?
No.
Or did they just change that curriculum to male, female, and non-binary?
They just changed. No, they actually just changed the class to non-binary training, and that's all you get. And by the way, you don't need to read. They use symbols because the reading proficiency. So,
well, you can't teach reading while you're teaching kids to be non-binary.
That's right. Well, that's right. Stick figures, and you can keep the stick figures very simple. They don't really look like anything. They don't even look human. They're just like, you know, sticks.
Right.
Sticks with sticks sticking out. And yeah, and you know, this story kind of hit because it was when they started asking people to tell them this. So, but they've been teaching them to do this. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised, because this is what happens when you teach somebody that this is what they are. And then you go and say, so what are you now? What you taught me I am.
Well, yeah. Like I said before the show, you know, if they taught kids how to read, spend as much time teaching kids how to read, to teach them how to be something that is impossible, they could ask the kid, what are you now? And the kid would say, I'm a better reader. But we don't do that. We don't do that in Oregon schools. And we spend an atrocious amount of money to come up with this result. I mean, it's just, you know, I mean, it's just there should be no surprise by anyone that because we're teaching this bullshit, really is all it is, in schools, that we have more of this BS in schools.
Well, they're actually celebrating it. So interestingly enough, and I found this article about the same time as I found the Fox News article. KTVZ station in well, stories out of Salem, yeah. Excuse me. The 2022-23 edition of the Oregon statewide report card is now available on the Oregon Department of Education website. The annual look at Oregon's K through 12 education system includes key data on students, teachers, and schools. And they issued this statement saying, academic excellence for students in Oregon remains a top priority for our agency. I took this role to make a difference, and we need to see what the data are telling us and be responsive to that. They missed the prior complete F grades that they've been getting, so they weren't responsive to that. And guess what? That's what they got.
They should be grounded.
Well, they say clearly the results show we have more work to do in setting Oregon students up for success. They're setting them up all right, but the word success is not the word that comes to mind, especially given the prior report.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I'd brought home a report card like that, somebody probably be getting the belt out.
That's right. We need corporal punishment for the educators.
Yeah, well, I mean, firing them all would be a good start. It'd be a real
Yeah.
good start. Sorry to any teachers that are watching, but your employer is not doing well. Your employer is not providing a good service or product.
Yeah, your employer needs to be fired, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, and here's some details, David. You'll love this. The Oregon statewide report card. These are the highlights that the people putting out the report card wanted us to pay attention to. After they admitted that they need to see how they're doing and setting people up for success, and then admitting they have more work to do, which means, okay, what is it? The old saying, nothing succeeds like failure in Oregon.
yeah.
That was a good commentary I just saw recently, and there are 333 unique languages spoken by Oregon students. Unfortunately, one of them isn't English. So they got 333 other languages covered, and they don't even have to teach them. They just have people come here from other countries that already speak them, and then they don't teach them English, and then they put it in the report card and say, "See, we're doing great."
Yeah.
The number of women serving as principals increased by 3 percentage points to 58% compared to 55% in 21-22. Well, that's a stat that, is going to make everything better after what we heard. I think a lot of parents are like, I don't care, bring on the non-binary principal. Just teach them to read, please. Updated methodology and approach to supporting schools identified for comprehensive targeting and support and improvement as part of an ongoing alignment and integration. That statement means absolutely jack shit to me. And I think that's because actually it doesn't. That's all it does mean.
That's all it is.
It's a bunch of gobbledygook that talks about how they're trying really hard to not succeed.
Yeah.
For the fourth year in a row, we've seen an increase in the number of non-binary students reported in fall membership enrollment. They're actually taking credit for that on the state's report card.
Hallelujah.
Like you said, that's what they're teaching them. Guess what's working?
Yeah. Well, whoever thought we would live in a day and age when things that are not possible to be true, things that are just patently false, things that science, biology, and everything that we've always known throughout civilization are not true, would be celebrated in a school in Oregon.
Yeah. No, this is what they do. They teach that the world's upside down, and then they do a report card saying, we've seen a 33% increase in people admitting that the world's upside down.
Yeah, okay. They all stand up and go like this.
Yay!
Yeah. Good thing we don't have as many cisgendered kids that speak English.
That's right. Time for a pay raise and a tax increase.
Shouldn't that be a basic thing that's taught in school? Is how to use the English language, regardless of where the student is from?
I think the only words they learn actually come from Netflix, and that's an interesting thing because Ron Wyden has actually come forward with a digital service tax modeled after something they have in Europe to tax Netflix. And
if it's in Europe, it must be great.
Yeah. Let's copy Europe. They're doing awesome.
Well, they're so European.
Yeah, they're so European. They're so clever. Maybe they could channel that digital service tax into paying for, to fund the Ukraine war instead of making us pay for it. What do you think?
Well, I think a government like the United States federal government that is bumping up against $34 trillion in debt should be fired. They're obviously incompetent and can't be trusted. And I think it just goes to show you that government cannot do anything well, and we shouldn't expect them, number one, to do everything, and number two, we would be better off if they did nothing.
Yeah, because they actually find a way to make things worse. They're harm reductioning our society to death.
Yeah.
And Wyden's proposal would end up taxing Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, and Disney Plus. If you thought you didn't have one of the services that they would like to tax, you probably do. Many people do. They've cut the cord and they just have these. There's an interesting tax question on how this applies to Amazon Prime, which is really just given to people who subscribe to a certain service with Amazon. But you know what? They're going to find a way. I know they will. And
well, somebody floated an Amazon tax here not too long ago. I know the city of Seattle up there, they wanted an Amazon tax. And
yeah. And Amazon said, we can leave.
yeah. We have quite a bit of real estate in a lot of other cities in America.
That's right. They can just buy it from the Chinese and set up their place there. Anyway, I know that was a double joke. But here's something really ironic. Biden is rushing to consider a tax on Netflix at a time that Netflix streaming customers and ad sales are collapsing. And interestingly enough, Disney Plus, they want to tax that at a time that they haven't even recorded a single year of profit since it was created. so they're going to tax money losing online streaming. This couldn't be.
It sounds like it came out of Oregon.
It does, yeah.
Except for Wyden lives in New York City, but
that's true. He really does. He doesn't live here.
It sounds like a very Oregon thing to do because you can gross over $1 million in the state of Oregon and pay a tax on it, regardless of whether you made any profit or not.
Absolutely, yeah. And so it is the Oregon way. And you know what they're going to make sure is that whatever that property is that you own, once it's besieged by snow, there will be absolutely no way in hell for you to escape that property because they are basically falling short and effectively defunding snowplows in the state.
Our budget's $3 billion, but you're not going to get any snowplows. It's the same. There'll be no firemen, no police, and your schools will close unless you pay this new tax.
And you won't own anything, and you'll be happy.
Right.
And so Governor Kotek and some legislative leaders, another translation, not Republicans, are promising a paltry $19 million to maintain winter highways as, unfortunately, the gas tax revenue falters, which they thought would last forever until they decided to tell everybody that owning a gas-powered car was evil and they needed to go get an electric vehicle or a more efficient gas vehicle. And guess what? Policy A appears to be causing policy B to fail. And
so now they need a policy C.
That's right. That's right. They're going to have to come up with a policy C and fully fund it so they can keep funding the problems they're creating and making worse. And by the way, electric vehicles are probably as or more likely to get stuck in the snow anyway. So they found a way to punish everyone. They have an aging fleet of snowplows. $19 million will last about a weekend of a major snowstorm in the Portland metro area. But on the good side is they said $8 million of it will go to buying materials like de-icer and salt. They probably won't be able to get any of it is what I think is going to happen. So $8 million will quickly become, $32 million when everybody's trying to buy the same stuff at the last second because we don't actually prepare for the winter here. We just let it happen and then tell everybody they have to stay home for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, I think, keeping the roads clear and passable and keeping the roads in good repair, I think probably should be the only, it should be ODOT's only mission, should it not?
It should be. They're supposed to repair the roads. They absorbed $3 billion. And I was listening to Lars today. They had John Charles on from the, what is it? I'm forgetting the name of it, but the group that he heads up that does a lot of policy analysis that I donate to, and I still can't remember the name of it. But he said they haven't built a new highway since 1972.
205, I think was the last,
That was
wasn't
it.
it?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So why do they cost $3 billion? Why do they cost $3 billion?
It's a job. It's a jobs program. I mean, how
Apparently,
many people work for ODOT?
it's not a doing work program, though. It's a jobs program, which is
No.
different. It's a lot of PERS contributions, but not a lot of work that's going to get done because $3 billion is being spent on maintaining roads that haven't really been added to since 1972. What the hell are they doing? Apparently, they aren't going to plow the snow. And Mark Larson also spoke out on this. Says ODOT has no dollars for snow plows, which is a lie. He said. So he called BS on I almost said Kate Brown, but it's Tina Kotek. And it's an extortion notion because
yeah,
he said $3 billion a year goes to ODOT. That's $8.3 million a day. I was pretty close when I said it would last a weekend, the money. And he said that they haven't started a new freeway in 50 years, and we can't get a simple bridge across the Columbia. And now we can't plow the roads without another 1/3% increase.
But the good news is gas tax goes up. Gas tax goes up at 5% in 30 days.
It does on people that apparently are paying less of it anyway. And so they said that that ODOT has 70 full-time people out of their 4,500 employee force who do nothing but manage money. They're money managers. I know.
Really?
70 full-time people. I bet that the ratio of what you need to get the job done is you probably just need 70 full-time people. And then the rest of them
stick their ass in a snowplow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Give them some mittens and send them out there.
And he said, I rank plowing snow as a have to have, not a nice to have. So why isn't this a higher priority on ODOT's list? But apparently the 70 people that are full-time managing money can't find $19 million in a $3 billion budget to do something that they absolutely should be doing. He said, this is the math equivalent of a guy making a $300,000 a year salary who's telling his friends he's walking these days because he doesn't have $300 to fix his car. Everybody would say that guy's dirty. I know.
I mean, there's people out there I like that, I'm sure, but wow.
Well, apparently some of them run our government, and a
lot of them run the government.
Thank you, Lars, for saying this, because we know that when the big snowstorm hits, and all these people who moved up here from California are saying, "Wait a second, it snows here. Why weren't they ready for this?"
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They never are. They're always snowstorms behind.
Yeah, and we've had, last year, I'm not sure what it was up north, but down south, we had an inordinate amount of snow here last winter. And fortunately, our county owns some, apparently can squeeze out enough money to run snowplows. So we're all able to get around. But yeah, I mean, it's just like schools. Right. It's just like Oregon schools. ODOT is run like Oregon schools. You have core functions. You have a core mission. They do everything but that core mission. They employ as many people as they possibly can. Hopefully, most of them non-productive, like the 70 people that push the paper around, and they get an F report card while asking for more money.
It's pretty much every agency. They get more expensive. They do less. They fail. People say,
yeah, I really don't want them to do anything. People talk about government services. I don't want a single government service.
Yeah.
I don't want one. Not one of them. I would rather see, I'm sure I can, prepare my own service.
Well, they plan to inflict those services on you. They don't actually provide them because you're not being served with services. They're serving themselves by saying they're providing those services, but actually they're just serving you a dish that is best left cold. That's essentially what they're doing, is they're just taking vengeance on you and your wallet. Now,
yeah, for being taxpayers, that's your punishment.
So here's something. interesting. I just want to paint a picture of the Measure 110 debate with 4 articles. There's one article that's in the Oregonian that says debate over Measure 110's future heats up as lawmakers mull reforms. And that's their description of it. Now, this is a complete hair on fire, dumpster fire F up of a program. It doesn't provide treatment. It does tax cannabis use, but then it doesn't deliver on it, and it decriminalized the drugs and unleashed a crisis on the state that's turning into a multi-level crisis that has our cities full of drug addicted zombies whose chief problem is not the lack of a home. And if you gave them a choice on how to spend whatever money you could give them, they wouldn't spend it on a dwelling. They don't have to spend it on a dwelling anyway, because they get handed tents and they get handed food, EBT cards, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So they can sit there and be invulnerable to committing crimes while they do drugs on the street. And Mayor Wheeler actually testified that he thinks lawmakers should criminalize public drug use.
I think that's reasonable.
Well, it's all public alcohol use is already criminalized.
They can't so is public marijuana use. You can't smoke weed in public.
That's right.
Not legally.
But fentanyl, you can sit there and blow in people's faces and then lean over and poop on the sidewalk in front of them. Cool. Yeah. And he said it's hurting small businesses, our overall economy, and frankly, it's making residents and visitors feel unsafe. I'm glad he noticed. It's literally everywhere in the city that he's in, and
it really is.
So he's this, and apparently this has been persuasive enough in our state's largest city, in the biggest media market in the city, to persuade lawmakers to mull reforms. I just picture somebody's like, I think we might need a reform. Let's think about that. I'm going to mull that over. It's a freaking disaster that they've unleashed on the state. And the closest they can come is mulling something. And apparently the people of the state are not in the same place as the legislators. The legislators, 56% actually support total repeal. 64% say they support a partial one. They could just repeal the decriminalization for now, because the treatment stuff they still need, but they can't deliver.
They need, but government can't do it.
Yeah.
Christine Drazen's organization was saying that the other day, that we need to pump the money into treatment. You know what? Government can't do it. They will F it up. They will F it up just like they do everything else.
Well, they'll turn it into harm reduction, where they basically do.
It'll turn into a grift.
It is a grift, and they, in fact, one of the articles that popped up here was how they're trying to dramatically ramp up naloxone or Narcan.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say the name of the real thing; it's just too hard. So Narcan, because they say that this is the solution: is 100,000 tons of cure, because they've decided to not only get rid of the prevention, but to actually unprevent stuff. Like, they're actually trying to make it so that you need as much Narcan as possible everywhere in every corner of the state, which is really just, that's like saying everybody's getting a cold, and what we need is 10 billion tons of symptomatic cold relief. That will solve it. And you're actually going out and it'd be like if you were giving people colds and say, everybody needs to have a cold. And guess what? We need 100,000 tons of cold reliever.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. So, but the other thing that I thought was interesting about this debate was that the description that you get from the headline in the Oregonian, which way waters down what's even in the content of their own article, which is some really angry people like out in Deschutes County who said, she said 6 infants were born with fentanyl in the system at the St. Charles Medical Center in Bend over a 70-day period. Mother's Bistro in downtown Portland said a virtual drug America has emerged downtown and other parts of the city. It's just like taking over the city. They go and they recount all of this, what's happening around the state, where people are literally screaming that this is a big F up. And these guys are mulling reforms. Well, here's what Tim Knopp said. Three Republicans. Okay. Tim Knopp, who's the minority leader, said, Oregonians have been clear. It's time to repeal and replace Measure 10. And so that's what he's talking about here. How they do it. What's that?
God, replace?
Well, I think they're talking about replacing it with something that actually does produce this treatment.
That still spends taxpayer money.
Yeah. But I guess he's in the minority, so he's trying to appeal to the majority to actually consider this idea. And that's the problem, right? Because unless this gets to the ballot box, those 56% that want total repeal won't get a chance to say anything about it, right?
Well, the voters of Oregon with Measure 110 got exactly what they deserve.
Yeah, and they were sold a bill of goods, by the way, because a lot of people didn't realize it was decriminalizing those drugs, and they didn't know what the effect would be. But they do get what they deserve because of the fact that the people that they elected to make sure the ballot title actually told them very explicitly what this would do, didn't tell them that. I mean, if you keep voting for Ellen Rosenblum, 3 election cycles in a row, and she does this with ballot titles, then you're going to get lied to. So they voted to be lied to. And unless they start voting differently on stuff like that, they're going to just get lied to some more, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a voter, you should do your due diligence.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But I like how the Oregonian.
I mean, you and I were not. We weren't duped.
No, but we paid attention, and also the media. We don't rely on the media to tell us to fill our brains with garbage. That's why we do this show, actually, is to make sure that people have this information. So I thought at least we would go and take the Oregonians' media narrative, which is completely bogus, and counter it with what people are saying, like Representative Kramer, who evaluates what's going on with Measure 110. She said defenders of Measure 110 will tell you that drug decriminalization needs more time to work. And that means in practice, more people are going to die before we make a change. That's what they mean.
More time to work.
Yeah. Well, maybe it is working. If they are so aware of its consequences, then maybe it is working the way they thought. And she just rips into the Democrat leaders who are mulling some changes,
Well, one way to make it work better is get rid of the Narcan.
Well, yeah, no kidding. But of course, now that they've created a shortage, maybe they actually have achieved that result too. Tootie Smith in Clackamas County spells it out and says it's well past time to admit the obvious. Measure 110, which decriminalized deadly drugs, has been a disaster. And so these are appearing in every paper. It's not appearing with Democrats saying it. So they are sticking to like the party line.
Yeah,
it needs more time and more money. I don't know. I think maybe the best result, even though I want to see it go away, Measure 110, is that maybe the Democrats go away in the election because they're going to defend this and claim that there wasn't enough money. And yet there's billions. So maybe it's time to change how you're voting if you're voting for these clowns.
Well, the Democrats support this. They supported it from day one, right? No one is willing to talk out about it, even though it's clearly some changes need to be mulled over. But I'll ask you, Kevin, and I'll ask everybody that's watching, and I ask this every time I see legislation passed. Mm-hmm. Who primarily benefits from this? Who is the first person that comes to mind that benefits from Measure 110?
The industry that gets money to spend on not solving the problem, or maybe even not even solving the actual problem, but doing things like building houses.
And who else?
Um, well, I don't think it's the drug addicts. At
It's
this
not the
point,
drug addicts.
it's the drug dealers, and
It's
then
the drug dealers. It's
yeah.
the cartels.
Well, gee, don't some of them actually contribute to the candidates that are?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Well, which candidates? I
Who
should
benefit?
ask.
Who benefit? Yeah. Well, Val Hoyle, Tina Kotek, and about a
Mia Fagan.
dozen or two others. Yeah. And so you look at this, you look at 110, you go, who is the most immediate beneficiary? Well, it's drug dealers. I mean, it's like it's heaven for a drug dealer. You have customers that can't go to jail for possessing drugs. Perfect.
Yeah.
You know, uh, and it wouldn't surprise me if drug dealers carry Narcan because a dead customer doesn't buy. And then you look at was it 2002 that had the changes on reporting for underage abortions and decriminalized the reporting death of an infant?
Yeah.
Who benefits from that? Who benefits from that legislation?
Yeah.
Human traffickers,
Human
which are
trafficking.
the same people that are trafficking drugs. So I've posited this that there is probably some money from criminal organizations, cartels, if you will, flowing into Oregon politics, and maybe not through OurStar.
Well, so there's another group, and you just mentioned human trafficking. There's a headline that says organization gets $300,000 to fight human trafficking in Central Oregon. They could fight it by closing the freaking southern border, which they could fight it by actually arresting human traffickers and putting them in jail.
Repealing the sanctuary state status.
That's right. Sanctuary state status, where they can't be deported if they are committing crimes,
right?
Because they won't cooperate with the feds. No, it's much more fun to start shoveling federal funds into a project to combat the problem they've created, and are so.
It's the grift. I mean, it's the grift.
I'm sure these people are
we've got some funds here. Let's create a grift.
But it's the 100 tons of cure, and instead of the ounce of prevention, of stopping it, at its source. And it's funny too that even Oregon Public Broadcasting, the bastion of pretending that everything's fine in the state of Oregon, is actually published an article that says sex trafficking in the Northwest is a problem in plain sight. Survivors and police are frustrated with low convictions as reported sex trafficking soars in Washington and Oregon. Gee, I wonder why it's soaring.
Yeah. Well, I can almost guarantee you that we will see a prostitution legalization in Oregon.
Right? They certainly started studying it. They spent $500,000 on studying it.
Yeah.
And
so you ask yourself again, who benefits from that?
Yeah. The traffickers.
The traffickers, and they're the same people that are trafficking the drugs. The cartels are, they're running all that stuff. And so I start to ask myself, well, the cartels, who have as much or more money than any lobby organization in the country, how deep are they in state legislatures? Because you look at the big picture and you go, we're passing laws that actually help these people.
Yeah, no, and actually you need to have trafficking, because if you don't have that, then you don't have a way for people to get money so they can buy drugs. Just like if you started arresting criminals and putting them away for, I don't know, armed robbery or burglary or car theft, then what you'd end up with is fewer customers for the drug traffickers. So you can't do any of that. So you got to actually have these things. They all work in tandem.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I guess I haven't really looked at it. Maybe I should talk to Angela about this, but how many drug dealing arrests are there in Portland? You got all these people who are zombied out on fentanyl or whatever it is they're using, and someone's selling it to them. Are people getting arrested and going to jail for that or not?
There's open air drug supermarkets just described by that person that runs a business there. And I'm pretty sure that if for instance selling too much beef were a crime, which probably will be a crime actually pretty
It
soon,
probably will be.
it's
Yeah.
out of the way.
Yeah.
But and all you had to do to put a stop to it is walk into a supermarket and arrest the butcher. That problem would go away pretty quick, but they won't do it. That is the issue, right? Now, here's while they're creating all these other problems and funding the massive 100 tons of cure to solve it, meanwhile, Oregonians apparently need $10,000 more just to live like they did in 2021. That's how bad inflation has been.
2021, 2 years.
2021. Yeah. So, and that was the last time inflation was within recent historic norms, was January of 2021. What happened in January of 2021? Something happened. And it wasn't when a guy in a Wookiee outfit, I'm not talking about the guy in the Wookiee outfit who
somewhere around the 20th of January. Is that what you're thinking?
I'm thinking the 20th.
About noon.
That's right. Somebody was sworn into office, and then what do you know? That was the last time inflation was within recent historical norms. So the inflation has led to people needing more money to get the same thing they got.
That's a lot. $10,000 is a lot.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's what, $700, $800 a month.
So what are the Democrats doing about that? And what I always find is they say, well, we're going to just start spraying money everywhere, sending money to people, which actually doesn't make inflation go down. That's what's ironic is, well, they need $10,000. Let's give them $10,000. Well, then they need even more next time. They don't understand basic economics, and they actually don't care about this.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And especially the federal government, because they've got the printing press.
That's right.
Yeah. There's roughly $8 trillion of the almost $34 trillion in debt that is that's due and payable in the next coming months, next year maybe, and that there's no money to pay that. So all of that debt is now going to be refinanced at a much higher rate.
That's right. Yeah, when you add new debt, and you use it to pay off old debt at a lower interest rate, you never get ahead of that.
No, you don't. You don't. No, I mean, yeah, and it's, to me, it's just it's the big elephant in the room, and I can't, I mean, I hear a couple of people talking about it, but nobody that's got any real chance of doing anything about it cares. Nobody cares. Republicans, spend money like it's gone out of style. Democrats spend money like it's gone out of style, and there doesn't seem to be any care or concern about how this debt's going to snowball.
Yeah, they don't seem to care. Actually, what they're busying, this is what our leaders here in Oregon are busying themselves with. And let me give you one example that's in the city of Eugene. They are going to ban the construction of any new gas stations because they think it's going to actually cause less fossil fuel to be consumed. The city has 42 gas stations today and 2 more in development. 42. It's a sizable city. And they started by restricting where they could be more and more and more, but now they want to be one of 5 cities that have banned the construction of new gas stations. Meanwhile, they're banning them in a state that is banning the sale of new gas-powered vehicles by 2035, while a union group has filed a petition for a ballot measure to ban self-service gas, which just became law in the state. I know. By the way, that's the city that tried to ban natural gas from being installed in new homes. That's what these people are doing. Oregonians need $10,000 more just to be able to maintain a standard of living from 2 years ago. And these guys are banning stuff that will absolutely have no effect whatsoever on controlling the weather. in the globe.
It's the Climate Church, which is an anti-human death cult.
It is. And I didn't actually have time to watch it, but I did see that Tucker Carlson did that episode yesterday about the documented 80-year-old yelling about things he doesn't understand, which happens to be John Kerry yelling about climate change at the big conference that he went to, because Joe Biden actually was too addle-minded and elderly to attend. They thought he might go there and talk about his Mustang or something, the one that has the secret documents and probably a sizable amount of crack cocaine in it from his son.
The one that's actually a Corvette.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was a Corvette or a Mustang. But I can tell you this: if he drives it into Eugene, it's going to run out of gas, and he's going to be out of luck. But John Kerry hates Joe Biden's car, and Joe Biden doesn't know what he's doing, so I guess it doesn't matter anymore. But that was an interesting video. I got to watch about a couple minutes of it, and but I get to watch the whole thing. What's your synopsis of it?
Well, I think is it Schellenberger? Is that his name?
Yeah, Michael Schellenberger.
Yeah. Who is a lefty? He's a lefty.
Yeah, he was a pro-environmentalist, pro.
He's not one of us.
Yeah,
he is the one that said that this is a religion. And this religion is an anti-human death cult. Because it results in making people poorer. It results in people dying because civilization is dependent upon both energy. Yeah, affordable and reliable energy, and they're systematically dismantling the affordable and reliable energy sources that society depends upon. They are literally driving us back to the 19th century. That's where they want us to be.
Well, we're getting there, and we're doing it in fine style because we won't even be able to afford 19th century pretty soon if inflation, the way they generate it, continues. And we won't have the money to pay back the debt, so it'll be one big bankrupt, unaffordable 19th century. Doesn't sound very attractive, but they're giving us regardless.
No, we'll be Argentina. We'll be Venezuela.
Well, you know what? Maybe what we can do then is we can all just go live in some of our wonderful national parks. Val Hoyle.
I get the Oregon caves.
You get the caves. Well, you're in Cave Junction, so you're, But I think so. Val Hoyle, at the end of last week, voted against a bill that would forbid federal funds from being used to house all of the illegal migrants streaming across the border. That apparently that border is secure and closed, according to Joe Biden and Mayorkas, who will probably get impeached soon. She voted
against that.
She voted against the bill that would forbid these funds from being used, which means that in effect, that's what she wants. I mean, there's no other reason why you would vote against it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the political geniuses advising her thought this would be super smart, and so apparently some people
ordering an enemy army. That's actually treason.
Well, that is actually what it amounts to. And by the way, they're going to have to allow fentanyl in our national parks so that they can properly accommodate all of the people that are going to show up with drug mules, and they're going to have to allow prostitution and human trafficking in the national parks because that's all together, right? You get all of those things as one package deal.
Right.
Monique Despain, who's running against Val Hoyle, pushed back on this, and here's a press release, and basically said that it's shocking how out of touch Val Hoyle is on this, and it is really shocking because, I mean, how stupid do you got to be to do something like this? She's making the argument, Val Hoyle is, for why she needs to be replaced because all these problems that we're talking about, like fentanyl, crime skyrocketing, fentanyl flooding into the streets of our community, Despain says Val Hoyle is fighting that every day. And instead she wants to make Hakeem Jeffries happy. He's a party boss. She wants to make him happy, because if she votes against what Hakeem Jeffries instructs her to, apparently, I don't know what happens, but she doesn't get money, or she gets disowned. She doesn't get a promotion to a committee position. I don't know. Why would somebody be that dumb?
Hey, there's any number of reasons when you're in the DNC caucus, but the fact of the matter is, I think they hate America.
Well, there might be just a little bit of that going on here. And by the way, the NRCC actually put out a really entertaining video to demonstrate what this means. What they did is let me see if I can find it here, because it's really good. They put out a video on Twitter that takes you on a tour of our national parks. They used AI. This is the first time I know I approved.
To put the tents and tarps in.
They showed what it looks like in each of our national parks to have tents and tarps and garbage all over the place filling our national parks. And he actually, I think, properly described it. He says the Democrats are actually addicted to open borders, crime, and homelessness. It's not just limited to the cities they control. They want this to be in these parks were set aside specifically to be preserved. By the way, it's not just national parks, it's any federal lands. So all the BLM stuff that they run, which they usually let burn all the time during the summer.
Yeah.
And so take a look at this, because this video is actually, it's funny, but if you don't laugh, you're going to cry, because actually this is what Val has in mind for your national parks. Wow. But she couldn't stop there. She's decided to expand one of the national parks. I just saw this today, and I couldn't stop laughing. This is an attempt by Merkley and Wyden to burnish her credentials so she doesn't look so awful and unaccomplished. And so she's going to expand the Smith River. It's the Smith River Expansion Act. And I couldn't help when I read this to think, is this tied to her previous vote? She needs even more space to house illegal immigrants that come in. So she's going to expand
an park. Smith River's just down the street from me.
And that's why. So actually, you may be impacted by this. It's right there. This story was in the Curry Pilot. And I'm like, maybe she should have waited a few weeks to introduce this wonderful piece of legislation that expands the opportunity for people to do what she voted for in this other really dumb vote that she took. But Val's not done. I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much she has done to make it easy for us to find bad votes. Here's what she did today. There was a resolution in Congress that was designed to condemn anti-Semitism, which is discrimination and hateful conduct against Jews, which has skyrocketed since we had the Hamas attack on October 7th on Israel. And apparently the way people have decided to unite behind Israel is calling for their deaths in many places in the country. I know. And Val
what a new concept.
I know. And Val Hoyle could not bring herself to condemn it. In fact, this divided the Democrat Party pretty much straight down the middle, because 95 Democrats voted with Republicans for this condemnation.
Right. And the rest of them support terrorism.
She's squad. She's with Rashida Tlaib, who
anti-American.
Yep. And Congresswoman Jayapal, who apparently was rationalizing how rape was okay if it was used by Hamas as a weapon of war. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So that's where Val is.
Yeah. All those people need to be removed from Congress.
Does that sound like a good election strategy? I mean, I
Well, not to us.
no, apparently,
But somebody sat around a table and said, yeah, you definitely need to vote against that. Right?
so do
Right.
you
I mean,
think
you
there'll be
should,
some blowback on that?
yeah.
So we ended on a high note by pointing out just how insanely stupid Val Hoyle is. Uh, and there is an opportunity to replace her. We've talked about that on some of the shows. So
Like
that's what we
Nicholas
got to
says,
do.
commies gonna commie.
Commie's gonna commie. And even when they pretend not to be communists, they're still communists. That's the lesson here. And all this stuff that we talked about could be changed by simply voting for someone that isn't doing all that stupid crap. It's that simple.
Yeah. Well, if you support Hamas, you hate America. Val
Yeah.
Hoyle hates America.
There we go. That it quote unquote David Darnell.
Well, I mean, that's what it's reduced to, right?
2023. Yeah. No.
There's no other way to paint it.
Well, and she doesn't just hate it, but she actually votes to prove it. That's I
She
think
wants it destroyed because that's what terrorists want. That's what Hamas wants. You know, I mean, there was a day in America when that was political suicide. I
and
mean, it
now
was I mean, like, wouldn't finish your term suicide, but now, oh,
yeah. To the applause of
so
the
courageous.
wine and cheese crowd. Oh, how wonderful. Thank you for
The
doing all
wine
this.
and cheese
Nice.
crowd. Yeah.
Yay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
making the winery tour.
that's right. That's right. Oh, the
Look, there's
non-binary
Foyle.
members.
She hates America. Hi, Val. Hi, Val. We hate America too.
That's right.
Damn this country.
Pass the Chardonnay. We hate America too. This is delicious cheese.
It is in such a wonderful environment, this beautiful winery that we own.
Well, I think we hit it out the park today. Whether it's education, the border, Measure 110, our national parks, anti-Semitism. This was a blockbuster today, and all we did is quote the Democrats and the media saying what they said. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah. You can't. Literally, you can't make this stuff up.
You don't even have to, and they made it easy for us.
Yeah.
Well, David, thank you for joining me here tonight. This is a blast. And we should be back tomorrow. It should be Sunny and Don with the Wednesday episode of Captive Audience. I don't know. Let's see if they can top today's, because we just had so much good stuff today, and it's a challenge. We're laying down a challenge to Sunny and Don. You guys have to top what we did tonight. I don't know. Really, it's news dependent, but I have faith the news will produce the stuff that we need.
Yeah, well, the people that hate America will produce the stuff we need. And just remember, Val Hoyle hates America.
There we go. Good night, folks. On that note, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode of the Captive Audience. Have a great night, all.